All right, so I have a comparison of these two GIFs. So we have, and it turns out when I rendered these to GIFs, it basically just made really crappy series of images that are set to be GIFs instead of an actual GIF. So I don't know what the heck this program is. Apparently it's built into the computer, but that's how these GIFs are running. For now, I'm just going to go with it. If this were an assignment in the playlasting, I would expect the qualities of these images to be significantly better and not, full of grain and grossness. But either way. All right, so we have, again, two examples of this. The bad animation on the left and the good animation sort of covered up. And they're playing at similar times, so we're going to run with it. But let's focus on first the Ferris wheel, partly because you can see it in both of them. You'll notice that as I look at both of these, it's really, really obvious like when this one stops. You can see it pretty much comes to a complete halt right about now. Whereas this one looks like it's in continuous motion forever. If you look at that slightly oranger bar in the center, it's moving at a constant speed. It's not speeding up. It's not stopping. So that's what you want to look for. That's the kind of stuff that doesn't break the illusion of perpetual motion. Same thing with the clouds. Literally just keyed it on one translation, pretty much the same as this, except this the wheel was rotation. But I've gone through and linearized these tangents, so these are just moving at a constant speed, and it looks like they're going forever because I've duplicated the clouds aggressively. Whereas these sort of randomly stop, which is really questionable. So that's the kind of stuff you want to look for there. Water is pretty much good for both of them. And I don't think I really made any changes to the boats between these. They do seem to be doing pretty much the exact same thing. So, mostly, again, what I want to talk about is the differences of watch, how stuff is starting and stopping at the beginning of the loop. And in this case, if you're looking at this one, like once it hits the loop, one thing that's really, really obvious about like, hey, this is probably where this is looping is everything comes to a stop and it slows down to a stop before it gets there. So this would be an example of there's no motion at the beginning or end of the loop. In this case, for the clouds and the Ferris wheel, water is fine. So like there's no motion and then the boat is off screen, so even if it is moving, you can't see it and it kind of defeats the purpose of the loop. So again, the fixes for that are fairly straightforward. It's either just fixing your tangent so it looks like things are in perpetual motion when they're really not, or you want to go through and just make sure that things are in screen, like that, literally having your objects in screen, and just copying the keyframe from the first frame onto the last frame is all you need to do. Let's see, other things. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I just had a thought, and now I don't remember what it was. Yeah, I'm just gonna pretty much leave it at that. I think that's hopefully counts, or I think that pretty much explains anything I need to. The other one thing I should have done with this and I didn't is, I guess it doesn't make a huge difference with the water the way it's working, is I should have checked the tangents as on the time of that noise that's controlling the water. I guess the only other thing that I wanted to mention, and it's like a pretty minor thing, where the clouds, I mean technically that's probably like 100 just random spheres. That's going to count as a single object. The same way all of these spokes or whatever on the Ferris wheel count as a single object. If you did, for the boat, this is 3 objects. If you did any kind of animation on the sails, maybe give them like a little wiggle or something like that, that is something that I would qualify as just polish on the boat itself, as opposed to the sail is moving on its own, if that makes sense. It also would be off screen anyway, so like it doesn't really, if I counted this, the whole boat as an object, and then this as an object, it would be then 2 objects off screen, but I'm also not counting them as 2 objects. So if you have a bunch of stuff that's attached together like this boat, they're being counted as a single object or like a single unit. Where I might make an exception is if you did something really crazy, like you made like a parented hand or something strange, where you have, 12 or 15 like finger ligaments attached to a wrist attached to a hand. That I might make an exception for, just because it's such a complex object, assuming everything was on the screen at the same time. If you want to do that, please get pre-approval from me. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the looping assignment. So hopefully that makes sense. And this was like a semi-decent illustration of what I would be looking for. You should be rendering this by the way, not doing a play blast. I just, it's a sample, so I'm not going to render it. This is the only assignment that I don't care if you want to render it at HT or HD 540 instead of 1080. Everything else should be rendered in full HD, but this is one of those weird, just sort of like intro to ANIM assignments. You're probably not super going to use for anything else in the future, so I figured I would save you guys some rendering time for that. But do plan in the future on, again, rendering in full HD. But yeah, that's the looping assignment. Let me know if you got questions. Oh, wait, sorry. One other thing that I meant to mention, and it's very hard to tell because of the terrible quality of this GIF. On this one, I did not smooth. I don't know how I broke that frame. But here you can see I've actually gone through and smoothed the wheel, which I didn't on this. I completely forgot to. I also turned on, in this one, the anti-aliasing, which again, kind of hard to tell, but I turned on anti-aliasing and screen space ambient occlusion to make things look a little bit nicer, which I did not do on this one, so please just double check again. If you're ever play blasting something for class, those two settings in particular will make things look way nicer. So I usually do recommend turning them on. That is officially all I have to say about this assignment.